This video focuses on a tool for your toolbox called opposite action. And I'm going to warn you up front, this may sound easy on the surface, but I know at least for me, it's actually super hard to do, or at least to do well. It's also a tool that I will warn you in some situations, I will get just up in my feelings about this one, to be totally honest. I can get kind of oppositional, like, no, that tool is dumb. I don't want to do that. It's not going to work. But then honestly, sometimes it actually does work. And then I'm like, oh, okay, well, I didn't feel like doing that tool, but it actually did help. So if you can, think for a minute about a time when maybe you were feeling some type of strong emotion. Maybe there's a situation where you were feeling really angry or really down, really sad, really depressed. Usually, as humans, when we get big feelings like that, we tend to choose behaviors or actions that sort of line up with those feelings, right? So if you're feeling really down, you might be more likely to withdraw from relationships or maybe choose to just stay home and curl up in bed. You're not super likely to jump right up and go run around and dance and do tons of high energy kind of activities because you aren't really in that emotional space. You're just not feeling it. Your energy doesn't really match up to those behaviors. Same thing if you're super mad. You might snap at someone or lash out in a way that you wouldn't normally if you were feeling happier or in a lighter mood. You're not super likely to be all warm and fuzzy and gentle because you're just not at that space emotionally. You're mad, right? So it's totally natural and normal that we line up our feelings with our behaviors. This just sort of automatically happens for most of us, and we all do it. But what can happen is when we allow our feelings to dictate our behaviors, we can get trapped in sort of a downward spiral, right? So I'm feeling really down, and then I kind of decide to just stay in bed, and I don't do the activities that used to make me feel happy. And I don't return people's phone calls or text messages. And it's like the worse I feel, the less I do things I would enjoy. And the less I do things, the worse I feel. So it causes this kind of spiraling down. What opposite action as a tool really asks you to do is sort of see that emotional spiral for what it is. And you hit pause. You come outside of your body for a minute and you see yourself doing the spiral, right? Sort of notice it. And then, and this is the super hard part, then with opposite action, you basically just get very intentional about doing something different. So maybe you feel like staying in bed, but instead you choose to go sit outside or go for a walk or text a friend a funny meme or go cook yourself a really nice meal. It doesn't have to be anything huge, but just try to do one thing that kind of moves your energy in the opposite direction and just see how it feels. Even though you aren't feeling like doing that thing, try just doing the thing. And people will say, and this is fair, people will say like, well, that doesn't fix anything, right? Like, okay, maybe I'm going to go do that thing, but it's just going to be a Band-Aid for a few minutes and then I'm going to go back to feeling bad again. Okay, that's fair, and that might happen. That's probably true in a lot of situations, but this tool is not a magic wand. It's not designed to fix problems necessarily. What it's designed to do is to be one tool in your toolbox to maybe kickstart some movement out of one of those spirals. So if you might say, okay, I was at an 8 or a 9 out of 10 on a 10-point scale for how big my emotional meter was getting. Maybe you could use an opposite action tool to dial that volume knob down just a little bit. Maybe you bring it down to a 6 or a 7. It's not perfect. You still don't feel great, but it's better. And then maybe when you get into that practice of dialing down the volume a little bit, then you get to a space where you can use other tools too. So again, it's just one tool to think about and maybe add to your toolbox. Opposite action, meaning that you sort of step outside of your emotional spiral for a minute and try doing something that is the opposite of what you feel like doing in that moment. So instead of giving your emotions the power to dictate your behaviors, just do the behaviors. Instead of allowing yourself to just do what you feel like doing, choose to do something and then see how doing it makes you feel afterwards instead.